The 6th District, Democrat Geoff Young faces Republican incumbent Andy Barr. Mr. Young joins us now. KET invited Congressman Barr to appear tonight, but he declined. We hope you'll send us your questions and comments by Twitter at KYTonightKET. Send an email to kytonight@ket.org or use the web form at ket.org/kytonight, or you can give us a call at 1-800-494-7605. Mr. Young, welcome.
Thank you, Renee.
I'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourselves to the voters of the 6th Congressional District and the viewers across the state. Why are you seeking this office?
The main reason I'm seeking this office is to try to prevent World War III, prevent a nuclear war breaking out, possibly in Ukraine or possibly near Taiwan, or several other hotspots anywhere in the world. I think the danger of a nuclear war is higher now than it has ever been in human history. That's why I'm running.
On your website, on your platform, you mentioned several issues, and one of the things you say is impeach President Biden for risking World War III with Russia and China. So perhaps the president agrees with you that the threat of nuclear war is as high as it's been, but you want him impeached. Why?
Well, he has contributed to the crisis.
In what ways?
Let's talk about first Ukraine. In 2014, the United States, the CIA, and the State Department caused a coup in Ukraine against their elected president, who was kind of a neutral person between Russia and the European Union. He was kind of trying to be in the middle and have good relations with both sides. He was overthrown by the United States, and since that coup, Ukraine has not been a democracy. It has become a totalitarian puppet state controlled by the U.S. State Department, the CIA, the Pentagon, and groups of heavily armed Ukrainian Nazis who have gradually increased their influence over the government. And now it would be accurate to say that Ukraine is a Nazi dictatorship.
Mr. Young, you've run several times for Congress dating back to the year 2012. You've mostly run as a Democratic candidate, but you've appeared on the ballot as a member of the Republican and Green parties. You filed several lawsuits against a variety of political figures and hold views that many consider out of step with the Democratic Party, such as what you just mentioned, to abolish the CIA.
Right.
And that you also mentioned about the Ukrainian government military are controlled by Nazis, which is perhaps
the
not
United States primarily, and Nazis on the ground.
Right. Opinions
locally.
That perhaps the Democratic Party would not espouse. How can you assure Democratic voters that may vote for you that you will represent their interests in Washington?
Well, it's in no one's interest to die in a nuclear war. I want to be a person who, if I see a mushroom cloud on the horizon, I want to be able to say to myself in the last few seconds before my life ends that I did everything I could to prevent it.
And what would that look like, sir? What would your plan be to help prevent nuclear war specifically?
Back off. In December of 2021, Russia presented a detailed peace proposal to the United States and to each individual country in Europe, most of them NATO members. And that peace proposal was to basically back off, agree that Ukraine would never become a member of NATO, which is a military alliance hostile to Russia. So they were making various proposals to improve their security. But I read the proposals, and they would have improved mutual security of Russia and all the other countries in Europe. The proposal Russia made, which was hardly even reported in this country, I had to find the wording of it on pretty obscure websites that I know about. It was reasonable. It would have greatly reduced the risk of a conventional war, which is what we've been seeing from February till the present day in Ukraine, and it would have greatly reduced the risk of a nuclear war. We should have accepted that proposal, but instead, President Biden's national security team pretty much rejected it out of hand. That was a tremendous missed opportunity. And all of the members, in my opinion, of President Biden's national security team should be fired or impeached for failing to take that opportunity to reduce tension in Europe, to improve the security of every country in Europe, and to improve our own national security as well.
Are you on the side of Russian President Vladimir Putin?
Depends
Are you a sympathizer of Putin's?
What does that mean?
Do you agree with his strategy and invasion of Ukraine?
It wasn't an invasion. I think your question includes a false assumption. Since 2014, the United States has been funneling more and more weapons into Ukraine, and had, as of February, it had essentially turned this puppet government that we created into a NATO base, a huge NATO base. The entire country of Ukraine, except for a tiny fraction of it that was pro-Russia, turned it into a NATO base right on Russia's border. Tremendous national security threat. So when Russia sent its forces into Ukraine on February 24th, 2022, it was not an invasion. It was certainly not an illegal invasion or aggression or anything like that. Russia was acting in self-defense.
You've also proposed to abolish the CIA. Can you explain why you make such a proposal?
Because the CIA is the worst terrorist organization in the world today. Ever since it was founded in 1947, the CIA has overthrown dozens of governments, has assassinated I don't know how many people, including one of our presidents, John F. Kennedy, in 1963. The CIA did that. And they are a rogue force. They're completely out of control. And they represent American empire. The CIA is the spear point of American imperialism. And the rest of the world is reacting very negatively against having their governments overthrown, having their people tortured. CIA is, has a long history of torturing people, which is a war crime. And we've got 16 other intelligence agencies. Let's save some money and get rid of the worst one.
This question from a viewer: do you stand by your repeated claims that the Kentucky Democratic Party has rigged the elections against you?
I don't know about this year, but they definitely did in 2014. They violated a Kentucky statute, which it's KRS 118.105, Section 1, which says that no party that has a primary, so in Kentucky that's almost always the Republican and Democratic Party, no party that has a primary may put their finger on the scale and rig their own primary. So the KDP did it in 2014, provably. 2015 they did it against me. 2016, I don't know, maybe. 17, no election. 2018, they definitely rigged it again.
So why are you running on the Democratic Party?
In 2020, the Republican Party rigged it against me.
So why are you running as a Democrat, Mr. Young?
Because there's no way to win if you're not a Democrat or a Republican. So in 2020, I switched to the Republican Party, ran against Andy Barr in the Republican primary. They rigged it in precisely the same way the Democrats do. And this year, 2022, I guess they couldn't find anybody famous enough or wealthy enough to beat me. I wore them down. I just wore them down. I just kept running, and they couldn't find somebody, famous to win.
So because you have made several attempts to run for office, why do you keep pursuing what seems to, at this point, to be elusive?
Elusive. Well, this year, May 17th, I won my first primary ever. I'm doing great.
Do you feel confident that you will be victorious in November?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think my chances are at least 50%. And Andy Barr, by chickening out, refusing to be here tonight, I think that speaks poorly about him. But I want to talk about another issue,
Sure.
and that is the abortion issue.
Mm-hmm.
On June 24th of this year, 6 Republican partisan hacks, I think they don't deserve the title justice or judge. 6 partisan hacks overturned Roe versus Wade, 1973 decision, which I feel is the wisest, best decision of my lifetime. They overturned it for one reason only, and that was because they had the votes. They had the raw political power to overturn it, so they did. I read all of the opinions of the 6, and it was completely meritless. Their arguments were illogical. They shredded the Bill of Rights. They took rights away from every American woman, and they attacked all American women and most of the men simply as a political power play. And the fact that the Republican Party did not abandon them or denounce that terrible decision proves to me that the Republican Party today is totally immoral, totally worthless.
I want to get back to another one of your issues that you mentioned on your website, that you believe in legalizing all drugs, and I wonder if all means all. Can you explain that and your position, particularly on medical marijuana? Do you mean all drugs, illegal, otherwise? Explain to us your position on that.
Yeah, well, the war on drugs has failed. Started by President Nixon in the 1970s, and it's just failed. We have a tremendous problem in Kentucky with overdose deaths. And so on my website, I have a link to John Oliver's excellent segment, which toward the end of March of 2022, he had a segment on harm reduction. And he showed addicts going into a clinic where they would get a certain amount of their drug that they were addicted to, and it wouldn't kill them. Nobody's ever been killed in these, and nobody's died in these clinics because it's the real thing. People die when fentanyl or some kind of poison is included in a street drug, and thousands of Kentuckians have died of drug overdoses over the years.
And you believe that this harm reduction technique is the answer to reversing the overdose death rate in Kentucky?
It's a wonderful answer. It takes political courage to propose it because, you know, people are going to say, oh, you're just helping these addicts stay addicted. Well,
who pays for that?
The government.
And what is the cost of such a proposal?
The cost is negative compared to arresting these people, locking them up, holding them in jails and prisons for years. The cost of putting up clinics and giving them small doses of their drug, and of course, at the same time, you have to have drug treatment and help them kick their addiction.
While they're still using.
Maybe they can switch to marijuana, which is not addictive. Get them off the heroin, you know, get them off the addictive drugs, and they're halfway to recovery. I'm sorry, what were you asking?
I was just saying, so yes, addiction is the issue here. So would you be swapping one addiction for another? And so we can assume that you're for medicinal and recreational marijuana, for all of it to be legalized.
Right, to treat it the same way as alcohol. If you take too much of, you know, marijuana or whatever, and you get into cause an accident, that would be driving under the influence. You should be prosecuted.
But you would be for decriminalizing possession of marijuana and all other drugs?
Legalizing it like Portugal has done. I mean, whole countries have done this, and it's worked quite well.
So in the time we have remaining, Mr. Young, please make your case for why the voters of the 6th Congressional District should vote for you.
If we don't change all of our foreign policies 180 degrees real soon, the entire world, or 90% of the world's population, is going to unite against the United States because they're sick and tired of being dominated militarily by a country that obviously our government does not care about the people of Ukraine or any other country in the world. The world is going to shrug us off, shake us off, and we'll be left isolated. Why should they sell us anything? The dollar will be worthless. Our currency will collapse. We will sink into a depression worse than the 1930s.
Thank you, Mr. Young, for your time tonight. And thank you for joining us this evening on